The C-5M Super Galaxy strategic transport aircraft, a modernized version of the legacy C-5, was designed and manufactured by Lockheed Martin to extend the capability of the C-5 Galaxy fleet to remain in service until at least 2040. The C-5M aircraft is operated by the U.S. Air Force. The U.S. Air Force initiated a two-phase upgrade program to transform the C-5 aircraft fleet into the C-5M Super Galaxy.
Okay, my name is Captain Scott McCoy. I'm an instructor pilot and the aircraft commander here of this C-5. Out here with the 709th Airlift Squadron from Delaware Air Force Base, Delaware. So we flew all the way up from there. I've been in the Air Force for 20 years. Joined in 2002, right after I graduated high school, as a loadmaster on the C-5. And then worked my way through the C-17, got commissioned, and became a pilot. So I've been a pilot now on the C-5 for about 8 years. I mean, everywhere. I think I've somewhere between 65 and 70 countries now over my career. So all over the place, all over the Middle East, all over Africa, South America, every continent except for Antarctica so far. So that's a kind of hard one to get to, but still working on it. As a pilot, I'm the aircraft commander, so I'm in charge of the crew. Currently our crew right now is 19 people, which is relatively large for us, but maximum is 23, so it's been bigger. Usually around 10 to 15 on the C-5. Typically 73. We have 75 seats total in the back of the troop compartment. It's in the back half of the wing on the upper story. All the seats face backwards except for 2, which are set aside for our loadmasters, which is why 75 seats equals 73 passengers. So recently I actually went over to Mildenhall Air Force Base in England and loaded a deep water rescue submarine. That was a special load that we had to certify. So they basically wanted a proof of concept that we could load it in a C-5, and then once we proved that we could, we essentially wrote the instructions on how to do it and the certification letter for that. So that was a pretty cool one. I've done several satellites, other random stuff like that you don't normally see. So it's definitely a little different. I fly for airlines on the civilian side, so we're all reservists as well. So it's 37 feet in the air is where the cockpit sits off the ground. So the sight picture is definitely a little different than my other aircraft. But like most modern aircraft, there's a radar altimeter that kind of tells you where you are off the ground. So even if it looks kind of high, you'll start getting an aural, 50 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet, so you can kind of count down and be like, oh wait, I need to, get this thing on the ground. So we have what's called castering gear. So despite having a 223-foot wingspan, we can actually do a 180-degree turn on a 150-foot wide runway, and that's made possible by the fact that our aft gear can actually unlock and caster, almost like the front wheels on a shopping cart. So the aircraft essentially just pivots on our forward main gear and can do a really tight turn 180. So, and then it just powers back into normal position and keeps going. So we have the GE CF6 engines on the C-5M model now, which is an upgrade from the old TF39s, and that increased their overall thrust by, I believe, somewhere around 28% from where it used to be. They're actually such powerful engines that they had to derate them a little bit because they're a little too strong for our pylons that were designed for the old TF39s. But the upgrade increased our fuel efficiency, our range, our power, our climb power, and basically everything across the board as far as engines are concerned. Definitely do well at school. Pay attention to math. Math is big. And it's just, it's about desire, love of flight. So if you just have that desire to do it and you just keep working at it, you'll get up there. And most people, once they see that desire to pursue that career field, they want to kind of help you out. So.
Staff Sergeant Stephanie Garber. I'm a flight engineer from the 709th Airlift Squadron from Delaware Air Force Base. I fly on the C-5M. I'm one of the flight engineers, so I'm going to take you for one of my initial walk-arounds. So for the initial walk-around, typically we just make sure the outside the aircraft is we're not leaking any hydraulics, any fluid. We don't have any loose or missing panels. Just look at the overall condition of the aircraft before we actually go inside, read the forms, and then start the initial pre-flight. Typically when we get to the wheel well, we're not knelt. I'd go in there, make sure everything inside is good, making sure that we're not scraping against anything as our gear's going up and down. Being knelt, can't do that, so we skip over this part. I'm typically looking to see if we have hydraulics leaking. The hydraulics move our stabilizer. Has a tendency of leaking once in a while, so we just want to make sure that there's nothing coming out that's going to prevent our pitch trim from going up and down. When it comes to the wings and the engines, we're basically just looking to see if we have any hydraulics coming out, between the flaps, the slats, the ailerons, and then for the under part of the wing and the pylons, we're looking just to make sure we don't have any fuel leaks. Or if we do have grease up there, that it wasn't a bird strike. So going into the wheel well, especially on this side, this is where we have our APU fire bottles. We want to make sure lights aren't on, just so when we start APUs up, we don't have to worry about anything happening with that. We check the overall conditions. There's a lot of hydraulics in there for our gear. You know, just making sure that it's not leaking, making sure that, you know, just initial quick look at the tires, make sure they look good. Making sure that when our gear does go up, it's not actually rubbing against anything. And then just, again, quick general overlook, just to make sure nothing looks different than how it's supposed to look. So in the wing area about here, this is where, one, we have hydraulics are gonna be at, but also just make sure we don't have any wet spots where we might have fuel coming through. You know, this is all of our tanks right here, so just making sure we don't have like a main tank leaking or one of our extended ranges leaking. For the engines, we just want to make sure, one, there's nothing that might be like in our fan that like look like damage, or anything coming out of our drain mass that might be fuel, hydraulics, oil. So just general condition of everything. Just make sure we are 100% good and we don't have to worry about any maintenance.